Hello and welcome to Dell's Gaming. I'm Dell and you join me in the From the Depths Designer. Here's my little bot on the starter raft in the designer area. And what we're going to test with the new patch and the new underwater terrain, first of all, is going to be some missile firing. What effect do these potentially deep water have for firing firing missiles from submarines at targets. So I've set up a few tests just to test the basic concepts. So if we go to my first test ship, I'll walk to the chair. Now we've got a very simple craft here. It's basically a box. Nothing more complex than a box. It's a simple box, just a simple box. Right, we just take a screenshot. We've got to have a screenshot, even though it's for no apparent reason whatsoever. We must have screenshots. Right. Now this has set itself at a nice 15-meter depth, and it's holding that position about 50 meters, fairly static. We've got 3 missiles of 4, 8, and 12. 12 being really practically the largest practical missile. You can go to a 16, but it's of no real benefit. So 12 is a good test, just to see what effect size has of the missile has on launch rates. So we're at 50. 50 is here, so we're actually 50, 4, 5, 6, 7. The base of the missiles is most probably about 7 meters taller, so it's most probably at about 43. But we're going to go with the height of the vehicle, and if you're designing vehicles, to be honest, your height marker is going to be possibly the lowest point of the ship. They sometimes call it the keel size, and theoretically it should be based upon keel depth here, which is another 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks down. But we're going to do it from the position of these control blocks. So the control blocks are all trying to keep it at 50, between 49 and 50. So first test then. What effect does this have? We have a nice little target there. So if I fire our missiles at them, you can see all of them get out of the water fairly good. I've got a long delay on the 4 one here, just to see, so you can see that it actually does pop out of the water first before it fires its jets. Obviously normally you wouldn't have such a long delay on that thruster, but all 4 effectively do fire from here without a massive problem. So of course we have to do that. Just missed it, never mind, have to try and get the screenshots, it's the obsession after the big boom. Right, so basically 50 meters, which is roughly the previous depth. No problems without any ejectors. One point of note, if anyone, I might mention it in some area, is the control blocks only have a maximum depth control of 50. They've got a height control of 500, but activating on altitude less than, greater than, only works up to -50. With the increased depths now, I think it would be handy if that could be set higher, because we could go to a lot deeper. Okay, so that all being said, let's try my test 2 ship. If we warp to the chair of the test 2. So test 2, same design, except it's in a slightly deeper area. Now at the moment it's resting at about 96 meters. Now I'm going to actually take that up a little bit, which I've got it as a depth gauge from input, so I want to take it up about 96. Let's take it up to about 75, so that will be 38. So that will start to raise. So simple control block basing it on the depth to the floor. It was, so we can modify it by, again, a maximum of 50 meters from the floor. So yeah, I think those figures need to, those adjusters need to be wider. Don't know what effect that will have, but we'll see how they go. So now we're at 81 meters, and we're going to do the test again. Where's our target? Where's our target? Over here. So this again is no ejectors. We're at 81 meters. So now you can see the 12 did not get out of the water. The 4 and the 8, which are set, both now set to fairly quick firing of their thruster, did get out of the water. So just to test that one more time, I think they're all loaded. Are they all loaded? Yep, they're all loaded. Fire one more time. You can see the, yep, the 12 did not get out. The other 3 raised at a reasonable rate, but the 12 did not get out of the water, and that's at about 84 meters. So around 80 meters, your very large missiles would start to have a problem. So you'd start to need an ejector. So what next we need to work out is, for the smaller missiles, just the 4, which is a usable size of missile, how deep can you go? So here we go for test number 3. Walk to the chair. So same block. Now this is already at an altitude of minus 300 meters. So this is showing just how deep, and it's still going down. It's not at the lowest point yet. We've still got some depth going down actually, or are we actually 50 meters from the ground already? Let's have a check. I think we might be at the, no, we are still going down. That's set for 50 meters. So let's have a look. We have now got 4 missiles with 1, 2 and 3 launchers. Let's see if any of these reach the surface. Basically, first of all, let's just fire them. So they're coming up eventually from here. Did any of them make it? They are still trying to get up. See, none of those actually made it to the surface. So what we're now going to do, we're going to use the builder. So none of those effectively made it to the surface. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to set them to just constantly fire. But what we're going to do with the craft is bring it to the surface. Let me just make sure I'm on the right thing. So if I now press freeze vehicle, it will basically start to surface. And they'll be firing missiles every few minutes. So we can now see at what depth these missiles will or will not start to work. This may take some time, so I may well hold off and come back when we start to see the missiles working. Right, welcome back. We did some tests. It looks like they're barely starting to work at about 140 meters. Seems to be roughly their limit. Even then, they are very close to launching near the sea. There's very little elevation on them at that range. At 140, they're barely working. They're at minus 142. The first ejector, number 4, yeah, that's certainly working at 130 for the 3 ejectors. So that's certainly working. Now it looks like the others are working at about 100. So that's working. Yeah, the 2's working now at about 100. And the final one, yes, that was working at about 90, I think. Let's just take that down again and we can confirm it. So they're all working there. All nicely firing, so they get an immediate fire, and I'm expecting them to immediately launch their sort of go off in the right target. The number 1's getting close, that's the -80, so potentially it will stop working on this one maybe. Yeah, starting to have problems at less than 80. Once it starts getting that, you're going to start having problems. It's still launching at the moment, but it is slightly low and it's not really getting out of the water very much. It's still usable. I think we'll say 90 for that. I think that's still a usable angle. Doesn't seem to have much fuel left, and it seems to be going down straight away. Right, we're now down at near -100, and oh, they all launched very nicely there actually. Okay, fair enough. They're all still working at this moment, although the number 1 seems to be having some issues, I think, in my view. Yeah, now the number 2 is also starting to have problems as about the 110, 115. So they are all still firing, but they're all starting to have problems at this sort of level, and not really getting out of the water and getting a good angle. There is some variation on that. Let's see, get down to the 130. A little bit further to go. 159, sorry, 100. So that's roughly 130 or so when these next ones come out. 3's, yeah, starting problems. Yeah, number 1 is definitely not working now, just 1 ejector. The other 2 actually are okay, but the number 1's definitely not. So I'll give it another thing. What are we up to now? -140. I think they're all starting to get affected a little bit. I think the 3 ejector potentially still okay to a degree. It would be usable at that. The 2 is now starting, notices having a very low angle of exit from the water. We're at 150 meters now, so yeah, that's 130 for the 2. I think is a usable, good figure, I think, roughly. And where are we at to now? 155, and now the 3 ejector is also starting to have some problems. That's yeah, 160 definitely is the limit for the 3 ejector. Any more than that, so it seems to be about 30 meters for each of the ejectors. So before we go any further, what we'll quickly do, we'll turn them off. Now we have got one last, what they call a deep water test. We'll walk to this force. Right, this is, we'll bring it into play so we can start seeing it working. Deep submersible. This is 4 ejectors on every missile launcher. We've got the 4, 8 and 12. We've got a little target out there somewhere. I think he's just over that way. And basically this is off the edge of the map. So I'm actually going to be going off the edge of the map here. And interestingly, we can actually see the whole of the map here. We'll sort that out at a different time. Yes. Okay. That's not what we're here for now. We shall continue with our mission. So we're off the edge of the map, so it will just keep on going down. There will be no limit as to how far down this will go. So we're going to do 2 tests. One, how deep before the missiles fail to launch on the 4 ejectors. Yeah, so that will be out on 4 block, 8 block and 12 block. And fail to launch means they don't get out of the water. They do not launch towards a target. So I'm going to start the missiles firing. I'm coming off of control, so I can just stay here. Is he going to fire? We'll put him on combat. Obviously not firing at this second. Let me just check to make sure everything is correct and there's something actually in range. Name of movement. Target 1, target. Yeah, they should be all okay. Let's just make sure it's not out of range here. There we go. Q. No limit. Okay. We will just bring a target a little closer. So I'm just going to load I think it might be a little too far away. So let's go back over here, see if that made it fire. Oops, I'm on the weapons. Oh, that good old chestnut again. I'm good at that. Okay, right, so time lapse will start now, and I'll make a note and stop it when we see missiles stop firing. And welcome back. After that little deep test, we're still seeing the 4 block still firing, just It's getting out of the water but not going very far. So just to recap, your 12 block stopped firing at about 90 meters. It just after that point could not get out of the water. I even tried to change the thrusters for the 12 and 8 and it just will not get out of the water. The 8 stopped firing at about 140 meters down, and the 4 reliably stopped working at about 300 meters. As you can see, it's just down there now. Now this could be put a delay on the I'm just going to try one final bit just to see whether it has an effect, and that is putting a delay on the firing of the thrusters, because it's only just so. If we maximize the delay to say let's say 20 seconds on this one, 20 seconds there, and then on the next one we're gonna say 20 and 25, just to see if that has an effect, and finally on the last one 20, 30 and 39. So there's 1 second when they're all three would be firing. So let's just see if that has any effect. So we're now down to what sort of depth? We're down to 400 meters. So the 4 is going to the surface and just firing. So the delay would mean it could theoretically, if it hits a wave, it will come up, but it's not actually ejecting out of the water, and it's a very low trajectory. The same seems to be now happening with, I think, is that the 8? The 12 is there. No, the 12 just did not launch in time. Possibly would need to put a regulator and some other on it. The 8 with that delay is managing to fire. So basically the engine underwater is firing all that time, so we've got to effectively let it raise up, and once it has got to the surface, say fire. You can see actually the 12 is trying to go, but is not succeeding. Our vessel is now at minus 430 meters and still going down, and we may well get to some limit. I don't know if there's a limit, and make it crash. So okay, so theoretically by putting timers on there and delaying the time that the thruster works, you could put on make it go longer basically. That's an interesting concept. Right, we're going to let this go down a little further, and then we'll just see what the results are. See if there is a maximum depth that we can get this to work at. Okay, well, I think that we'll call the end of a test here. We're now gone below 500 meters. Now, I believe the main map will have a minimal limit of 500. So unless you go off the edge of the map, you should never go more than 500 meters down. The 4 missile is just firing, just. The 4 and the 12 and 8 are trying, but they can't get out of the water, and even the 4 is although it is firing, if there was a rough sea it'd be hitting the water all the time. So, but it is eventually getting to its target, so it's still effective, but not greatly so. And there will be a point where even if you put a 60-second delay, it would be so far down that you couldn't go anywhere. So okay, the main bit of conclusion of this is if we get to let's get to a nice this place. Let's go back to our raft. I quite like the raft. Where's our little tiny raft? We'll walk to there. Whoops, where's my raft gone? Something's blown me raft up. Oh, that's not very nice. Ugh. My own missiles have blown the raft up. Ugh, of all the things. Terrible. Okay, let's go and get on somewhere else. Getting on the target would be a bad idea in general, I think, but in case one of the missiles does start firing. But we're going to the spawn beacon here. Why not? That's a nice unstable platform. There we go. Right. Hey. Oh, fell off. Oh well. Oh well. We're going down to the depths. We're going to see from the depths, and that's where I'm going to come from. The depths. So this is me, Dell Gaming. Salute. From the depths of the ocean floor, reporting on the missile situation. So with ejectors, you can get a without ejectors, you can get a reliable firing rate down to about 75 meters for larger missiles. And let's see, where did we get to? With smaller missiles, if you start putting ejectors on, an ejector will allow it to fire reliably for down to 100 meters, 2 down to 130, and 3 down to 160, and I think about 200 for a good launch with 4 ejectors. After about 300 meters, although a small 4 missile will still fire, it's going to be unreliable. It's not a reliable method of firing the missile. It's got to rely on the waves to allow it to get in the air and that missile to fire, but it's theoretically possible. So, I mean, what I would like to see, looking at this test, is control blocks have a bigger variation on their depth detection rather than just 50 meters. It would be handy if they could go all the way to 500 meters, since that's going to be the limit of the floor, so we could set it at a specific height. That should be fine. Where other issues? I'm going to do another test, which is going to be what I'm going to call a deep water test, and that is, I think this particular one could make submarines very powerful, in that you go deep enough and nothing will be able to attack you, which is a bit of a sort of cheat in some ways. If I just sit at the floor at 200 meters down, or even 85 meters as I am now, lasers and cannons may well be able to get me, but it'll be interesting to see the effect. What might be needed is some sort of can you use torpedoes with balances to get down, or very high AP cannons to get under the water, so we can maybe have to test that. Obviously lasers are still going to be the overpowered way of shooting people, because they've got unlimited range effectively, and they have insane amounts of armor piercing and damage. So lasers is the easy way to defeat any vehicle, but I would like to have a go at some depth charges and some torpedoes, just to see on that side, because that's my thing, the missiles. Let's see what we can do with missiles at depth. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed or have got some benefit from this particular lab, and until next time, salute, and please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.